May 23, 2025, Ouagadougou. Under a scorching sun, the capital of Burkina Faso buzzes with palpable tension. It's not the suffocating heat that stirs the hearts in the lively alleys of Kalouba, the bustling markets of Pissy, or the shaded courtyards of Zagona. A single word spreads like wildfire: condemned. On this day, 113 men, mostly Ivorian, are found guilty by a Burkina military tribunal. Their crime? An attempted assassination of President Ibrahim Traoré, the spearhead of a revolution shaking the Sahel. The trial, held under tight security, barred foreign journalists, but the Burkina people missed nothing. In homes on the airwaves of Radio Omega, in mosques, schools, and local bars, every word from the tribunal was heard, felt, and dissected. When the verdict is delivered, a deafening silence engulfs the country, followed by a roar that echoes from the plateaus of Ouaga, 2,000 to the hills of Bobo-Dioulasso. This isn't just a judgment, it's a political earthquake, a solemn warning, a red line drawn in the Sahel's red earth. These 113 men weren't mere criminals wandering the bush. They were mercenaries trained, equipped, and infiltrated with surgical precision. Their mission? Eliminate Traoré, destabilize Burkina Faso, and crush the revolution that's giving hope to a wounded nation. But they failed, betrayed by their own arrogance and the vigilance of a nation on high alert. "We didn't kill men, we killed a plot," declares a tribunal officer, his gaze hard, his voice heavy with the weight of a country that refuses to bend. On this May 23rd, Burkina Faso doesn't just punish, it erects an unbreachable barrier, a challenge not only to its enemies but to an entire continent watching in awe. The genesis of the plot. It all begins on the night of May 13th, 2025, in the dusty southern reaches of Burkina Faso, near Banfora, just a few kilometers from the Ivorian border. Beneath a moonless sky, President Ibrahim Traoré, true to his direct style, makes an unannounced visit to a military base near Côte. Wearing his iconic red beret, he arrives to rally his troops, inspect border fortifications, and strengthen coordination with the volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, the civilian militias protecting villages from terrorist incursions. His arrival, as always, is discreet, almost invisible, but his presence electrifies the soldiers. What he doesn't know is that less than 30 kilometers away in the shadowed savannah, 120 heavily armed men have crossed the border from Côte d'Ivoire. These aren't jihadists or local rebels, they're seasoned mercenaries, organized like a war machine. Their arsenal is impressive: encrypted radios, sniper rifles, GPS trackers, incapacitating grenades, and stacks of dollars and CFA francs. Their plan? Strike fast, kill Traoré, and vanish into the chaos. But Burkina Faso is no longer the vulnerable nation it once was. A counterintelligence unit, honed by years of fighting terrorism, picks up suspicious signals through informants embedded in cross-border networks. Coded words circulate on secure frequencies. Target Alpha, Zone 3 secured, Ivorian contact validated. The General Staff, gathered in an underground room in Ouagadougou, grasps the situation immediately. This is a targeted operation against the head of state. In a rush, an armored convoy is deployed. Drones take flight under the starry sky, their infrared cameras scanning the bush. At 3:12, the trap snaps shut near Campti. A brief firefight erupts, but the Burkina army, well prepared, quickly dominates. Within 20 minutes, 113 mercenaries are captured alive, handcuffed, and disarmed. 7 others are neutralized in the chaos, but the operation is a resounding success. In their bags, investigators uncover a trove of evidence. Phones saturated with messages in French from Abidjan, annotated maps of Ouagadougou Presidential Palace, reconnaissance videos showing the roads to Gawa, but the most chilling find is an audio message recorded on a cheap device. Make sure IT doesn't come out alive. IT, Ibrahim Traoré. The assassination attempt failed, but the message is clear. Someone somewhere wanted to decapitate Burkina Faso. Operation Round No More. The night of May 13th will be etched in history as the night vigilance saved the Republic. Operation Round Noir, orchestrated in utmost secrecy, aims to neutralize the threat without causing panic or alerting the world. The mercenaries, holed up in a wooded area near Campti, are preparing for their final assault. They're organized into 3 units, a team of snipers positioned for a long-range shot, a ground assault group ready to breach barriers, and a corps of coordinators linked via satellite, likely to foreign sponsors. What they don't know is that the Burkina army has been tracking them for 48 hours, thanks to a network of informants and Russian-supplied drones. Special units trained with support from Russian and North Korean experts have rigged the terrain with mines and positioned sharpshooters. At 3:12, the order comes: encircle, capture, do not kill. The operation is a tactical masterpiece. In 17 minutes, the 113 mercenaries are neutralized, disarmed, and escorted to an underground detention center near Bobo-Dioulasso. Some try to flee into the bush. Others blend into nearby villages, but all are hunted down, identified, and logged. The search yields falsified Ivorian passports, foreign SIM cards, stacks of dollars, and a coded notebook mentioning initials, Chef D, Operation Twilight, and offshore account numbers. Early interrogations prove revealing. Under pressure, some mercenaries crack. We were told it was a cleanup operation to save the sub-region. That Traoré was a danger, confesses one, his face etched with exhaustion. But for Burkina Faso, these confessions are just the tip of a far larger plot, an international scheme to decapitate the state and plunge the country into chaos. The trial of the century. On May 20th, 2025, Ouagadougou hosts the most resounding military trial in its history, in a fortified enclosure in the heart of the capital. Under the heavy gaze of an entire nation, the 113 accused take their seats, handcuffed and surrounded by elite soldiers. The charges are damning: attempted assassination of a sitting head of state, conspiracy against national security, collusion with a foreign power, and illegal infiltration of military territory. The tribunal, composed of Burkina judges supported by observers from Niger, Mali, and Guinea, embodies uncompromising sovereignty. No foreign lawyers are allowed to plead. This trial is an act of national affirmation, a response to decades of external manipulation. The courtroom, stark and tense, becomes a theater of truth. The faces of the accused range from resignation to defiance. Some lower their eyes, others attempt to deny, but the evidence is overwhelming. Intercepted communications reveal coded exchanges with numbers based in Abidjan. Reconnaissance videos filmed with civilian drones show the roads leading to the presidential palace and the Gawa base. A key testimony comes from a Burkina lieutenant who recounts how his men repelled an infiltration attempt on the night of May 13th. The prosecution screens a blurred video in which a commando leader whispers, "We strike tonight. IT must fall before dawn." The audience, hanging on every word, holds its breath. A young Special Forces captain, his voice trembling with contained emotion, sums up the stakes. They didn't come to steal cattle or loot a market. They came to decapitate our nation, to rip away our future. The trial lasts 3 days, broadcast in summaries each evening on RTB and Radio Omega. In the bars of Ouagadougou, families gather around old radios. Young people comment on WhatsApp and elders nod in silence. The people understand this isn't just a trial. It's a declaration of independence. On May 23rd, at precisely 1 p.m., the verdict is delivered in a chilling silence. The tribunal president, a military magistrate with a steely gaze, rises. In the name of the Burkina people, the 113 defendants are found guilty of attempted assassination of the transitional president, conspiracy against the state, and collusion with hostile foreign powers. The sentence is death by firing squad, in accordance with Article 45 of the Military Code in times of war. No appeal, no retreat. The sentence is final. A shiver runs through the room. Some defendants close their eyes, others tremble, but none protest. They know they were sent to kill. They failed, and the price is steep. Outside, the crowd gathered around the tribunal erupts in a mix of anger, relief, and pride. Justice. They shout, fists raised. In Pisi, an old mechanic, his hands stained with grease, holds up a rusty radio and whispers, "This country has suffered, but today it stands tall." In Bobo-Dioulasso, youths march through the streets, waving signs. 113, it's over. You don't assassinate the future. A regional shockwave. The streets of Ouagadougou ignite with a contained fervor, free of violence. In the markets of Didougou, women stop haggling to listen to the verdict replay. In Feda Ngorma, imams weave the judgment into their sermons, praising the resilience of a people who refuse to yield. On social media, the hashtag #AfricaJudges goes viral, fueled by millions of messages from Mali, Niger, Guinea, the DRC, Chad, and Togo. In Banfor, ceremonies honor the families of fallen VDP members. Their names read aloud in moving tributes. They gave their lives so the nation could live. But in Abidjan, a frigid silence takes hold. The Ivorian government, usually quick to respond, remains mute. No official statement, no denial, just a diplomatic unease weighing on the economic capital. Behind the scenes, tension mounts. Ivorian diplomats quietly leave Ouagadougou, recalled for consultations. Documents seized during the operation reveal troubling connections. modified Ivorian military passports, bank accounts tied to retired officers in Yamoussoukro, and encrypted messages mentioning a mysterious Chef D, potentially a senior Ivorian officer still active. Independent Ivorian media seized the story. Some call it a continental shame. Others dare to ask the forbidden question. What if Ouattara knew? What if he turned a blind eye? In Abidjan's working-class neighborhoods like Trikeville and Yopougon, anger simmers. Young people take to the streets, holding signs. We're not assassins. Not in our name. Tell the truth, Mr. President. The Ivorian authorities try to douse the fire, but the spark has caught. This is no longer just a diplomatic crisis. It's a moral fracture. A moment when a people looks in the mirror and questions its place in history. In Abuja, the headquarters of ECOWAS, the organization usually swift to condemn military transitions in the Sahel stands out for its silence. A vague statement released late on May 23rd calls for dialogue and respect for human rights, without mentioning the mercenaries, the trial, or Traoré. In Ouagadougou, the response is scathing. At a press conference, Burkina Faso's Minister of Defense, his face stern, declares, "We didn't judge out of vengeance, but because our nation was attacked. If ECOWAS has nothing to say about an assassination attempt on a head of state, it should rethink its existence." In the streets, Burkina citizens go further. ECOWAS stays silent when we're killed, but speaks when we defend ourselves. A geopolitical shift. Meanwhile, unexpected voices break the silence. Russia, North Korea, and China issue statements supporting. Burkina Faso, Russia's foreign ministry declares, the Russian Federation salutes President Traoré's firmness, a strong signal of sovereignty against external threats. Pyongyang goes further. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea congratulates Burkina Faso for defending the honor of its people. Those who betray their homeland deserve neither pity nor silence. Beijing, more measured, praises the resilience of a sovereign African justice system. These statements set social media ablaze. In Ouagadougou, signs appear in protests. Burkina doesn't tremble. It inspires. Photos of Traoré alongside Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un resurface, waved as symbols of a new world order. For many, this support marks a profound shift. An Africa that judges its enemies by its own laws, backed by powers defying Western hegemony, is no longer a utopia. At the UN, representatives from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger refused to engage with Western media. A Burkina diplomat, off mic, remarks, "We no longer need applause from Paris or Brussels. Respect is earned in Moscow, Beijing, Pyongyang. Within the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, Mali and Niger share the same view. ECOWAS, paralyzed by its contradictions and ties to foreign powers, has lost its legitimacy. A moral insurrection. The verdict of May 23rd doesn't stop at Burkina Faso's borders. It ripples across French-speaking Africa like a shockwave. In Conakry, young people protest outside the presidential palace, chanting, "No mercy for traitors." The Faso shows the way. In Dakar, despite government caution, students plaster university walls with posters. A president targeted. A nation awakened. 113 condemned, 113 lessons. In Bamako, a rapper releases a track titled 113 Targets. Its chorus resounding, "They wanted to kill a man. They woke a people." In Kinshasa, a Congolese slam poet recites, "They came for a man. They awakened 113 million souls." Support videos pour in from Chad, Togo, Cameroon, and the Central African Republic. Everywhere, a hashtag spreads like a bushfire. Hashtag Africa Judges. In Abidjan, the situation turns explosive. In working-class neighborhoods, conversations shift. People no longer talk about football or music, but about sovereignty, betrayal, and justice. Traoré didn't back down. He judged what our countries hide, whispers a vendor in Trikeville. Artists jump in. An Ivorian painter unveils a mural titled Red Line, depicting 113 silhouettes facing a tribunal. A Togolese writer publishes a poem. Burkina has spoken and Africa listens. Traoré's silence. At the heart of this storm, Ibrahim Traoré remains silent. No tweets, no statements, no hint of triumphalism. On May 23rd, as the nation celebrates a judicial victory, he visits a cemetery near Gawa, where soldiers killed weeks earlier in clashes with armed groups are buried. In a silence only the earth understands, he kneels not to ask forgiveness, but to honor those who died protecting the nation. Then, standing, he adjusts his red beret and murmurs to his officers, "Let them know we don't govern through vengeance, but we will no longer bend to fear." The cameras don't capture him, but the people see everything. In Ouagadougou, his portrait adorns the walls of neighborhoods, surrounded by 113 stars, not to celebrate death, but to commemorate justice served, a trap foiled, a nation standing tall. In the bars of Zagona, young people paint slogans. Traoré, the soldier who doesn't flee. In Bobo-Dioulasso, an old woman weaving a pagmy declares, "He's not a king. He's a son of the people." And his son defends his home. A new era. On May 23rd, 2025, Burkina Faso didn't just deliver a verdict. It drew a line between a past of betrayals, faceless coups, stateless mercenaries, and a future where sovereignty is no longer a slogan but a reality. For too long, Africa has seen its leaders fall to invisible bullets, its dreams shattered by plots hatched in cushy chancelleries. But on this day, through Ibrahim Traoré, a continent rose. The 113 condemned are just a visible part of a broader network. Foreign ambitions and systems that thought they could still manipulate Africa. Traoré didn't flinch. He didn't call for vengeance or beg for international approval. He judged, decided, and stood firm. This act neither Paris, Washington, nor Abidjan can erase. It's not an execution, it's a historic warning. Africa is no longer for sale. Those who dared challenge it now know what awaits them. In Ouagadougou, Bamako, Niamey, Conakry, the people chant the same refrain, "We are awake." And for the first time in decades, it's not Africa waiting for lessons in justice. It's Africa giving them.